Welcome to another week of trading. This is for the month of September 2024. Things may look a bit different on the screen. I added some level 2 data to the layout now to give some of my trades more context. I'm also using a better camera. My old one was from like 15 years ago, so my face isn't colored like a Oompa Loompa anymore, but I digress. Let's get into what I traded this week. Starting with Monday, if you watched my previous vlog, you probably already know the outcome. I had a few top watchers this morning, but some of these were just too spready, like this ITOS had 20-cent spread on a 50-cent stop, so I just let that 1 minute go. And my first trade was actually Apple. I was trying to short it under the 1 minute 1, 2, 3, but before I could figure out the numbers and share size, I think I'm going to short some Apple under 215. It's gone. It went right away, so ended up missing the trade. So I moved on to the VZLA. This was actually a secondary offering. It's also silver. So wasn't sure if this was going to move much. Also didn't like the hourly, which was right into that 200, but decided to give it a shot and got it off the 123 on the 2 minute as a short. So while that was cooking, I noticed the GoEV was breaking down on the 1 minute. So jumped in a bit late here. Didn't see any news on it. It's just been on an all out downtrend and making new lows. Ended up flipping on me almost immediately, so killed it for a partial loss. Then I noticed the Apple giving another entry here on the sell setup off the 1. Wasn't as excited about this entry as the first one because just wasn't sure what the market was going to do here, but thought it was worth a shot. And of course, it was pretty much a sell setup failure immediately, so I tightened up my trail and killed it over the 2 minute for another partial loss. Then missed the exit on that VZLA. Now this wasn't looking too good. Probably should have killed it over the 5, but too late now. So decided to just leave the original stop and take a full loss on it if it comes to it. Looks like it's coming back in, which is good. So I'll let that keep cooking. Then I got back into the GoEV as it broke down again on the 2. Looked good and was up about an R on it. Then out of nowhere, it did some WWE Undertaker waking up from the dead type of shit, making me miss my exit, and had no choice but to kill it for over an R loss. So down almost 2 Rs to start the morning, but thank goodness I started to finally get some follow through on that VZLA, and I covered it on that drop on some volume. Then the TEL, which is a buyout, I noticed it looked like it wanted to break out on that 15 for a pinch play, and what a nice pinch move it made. Then in the afternoon, I noticed that it was going parabolic on the intraday, so I ended up scalping it short. And I also scalped the CHRS, which wasn't a gap, just a bearish sell-off into new lows on the daily. So shorted the sell setup plus a 123 on the 15 minute and called it a day. Tuesday was a pretty quiet day, mostly just scalped a few symbols. Didn't really like any of the gap setups. So I watched the GoEV again from yesterday for a scalp at the open as it was gapping up a bit. Didn't have much size because I wasn't really expecting much of a move, just because I wasn't sensing a whole lot of momentum. I also did like the APVO as a 123 on the 5. This was a secondary offering, but unfortunately it was not available to borrow, so couldn't short it. Then surprisingly, the GoEV actually started to go here and ended up taking it once it flipped on the pop. I also traded some CHPT, no gap on this one, just a scalp for a breakout that bottomed on the daily. Unfortunately, didn't go heavy on the sizing, but got something out of it on the breakout. I also had the TEL again on my carryover list from yesterday, which was basing, and started to pop and rock again, so watched it for a quick scalp, both on the short and long side. But other than that, pretty quiet day. Didn't do much else the rest of the afternoon. Market was pretty much just chopping around, making new equal highs and lows. Seemed to be waiting for tomorrow's big rate cut decision announcement. So Wednesday was FOMC day. Usually take it pretty easy because I find that the market gets choppy. So I try to get a bulk of my trading done in the morning before the announcement. So right out of the gate, my first trade I went after was the CBUS, which I just realized it's another secondary offering. I don't know why I was so aggressive with the secondaries this week, but I tried it under the 1 because it was such a tight stop, but it only filled me 400 shares. And once I noticed the spread opened up to 9 cents, didn't like to see that, so I took my order down. Then I noticed the spread tightened up, so I did add some, but using the high of the day as a stop. And it wasn't really following through, but decided to let it play out, keeping my stop at the highs, plus I was undersized anyway. Then I shorted me some SMSI as a 5 minute 123, but with the intention of scalping it, since this was just gapping down from yesterday's pop, and into the 20 on that 15. So I was just pretty much looking for a quick drop as it's back under $1. Didn't get the drop that I wanted, but on the way out, I got horrible slippage. So what should have been a break-even trade turned into a half an hour loss. But hey, the C bus ended up working. Also bad fill on the way out because the spread opened up to almost 20 cents, but at least it worked. Then I noticed gold, IAUX, was basing at the highs for a breakout on the 2, so I grabbed some of that long. It wasn't really moving, it was slow as a snail, and I ended up trailing out on the 5. Then the TEL again, I noticed looked like it wanted to break out, so I got some for a scalp, and it worked. Wow, this thing has been saving the week so far. Then there was still time before the Fed announcement, so I jumped into this laser that was selling off, trailing bar by bar, and took it on the drop. And then went flat on my positions as Powell started speaking, which we all know by now that they decided on a 50-point basis cut. And market's knee-jerk reaction was a big pop, then eventually failed. But like I said, I mostly watched from the sidelines at these events, so didn't do much else in the afternoon, and just took it pretty easy. Thursday, I was a bit more aggressive since the highly anticipated rate cut is behind us now, so I was hoping for better follow through. So first trade here was the VNDA, which gapped down on news of not getting one of their drugs approved. Looked good lower, so I tried it without even waiting for the 1 minute bar to close. It was on an uptick, so it was hard to get filled on, but might have been a good thing because it decided to pop and the spread opened up to a couple cents. So I ended up waiting for the 2 minute to close and killed it over that bar's high. Then nothing else really set up for me this morning, but I noticed the TEL, which has been on the carryover list all week, went nano-parabolic on the intraday, so ended up shorting it for some scalps. I also tried the APDN as a scalp, but was hard to get filled, so it couldn't make much, and felt pretty disappointed with the setups that were out there this morning until I came across the Sense. This thing has been waking up these past few weeks. Today was not a gap, but was basing for a breakdown after a big sell-off. So got some under the 1, 2, 3 on the 15 minute, broke down and gave another entry on the 5, so decided to add and reduce my position. Still looked good lower even after this drop, so I held and took it once it accelerated with wide range bars on volume at the bottom here. So I believe this might have been the play of the week. Then my internet went down. Thank goodness it happened after the Sense trade. I don't know why, but lately I've been having a lot of internet issues. Spectrum is so ass, but they're pretty much the only option for me at my current location. And I didn't get my internet back until the last hour of the day, so I didn't do much. Didn't seem like I missed much either. Then Friday, as I started to record, I don't know why, but my camera wasn't working now. Didn't have time to fix it because the market was about to open, but I do fix it later on the day though. So for my first trade, I was watching the FedEx. This had a huge gap down on earnings. Had 2 orders out to short it. One was under the 2 minute low high, which I got partially filled on. So I jumped in some on toss as well. And the rest filled as it broke new lows. This really took its time, which I have no problem with as long as it's grinding in the right direction. But it did have a few moments where it attempted to pop and kept me on my toes, but didn't see any good reason to lower the stop yet. In fact, I decided to add and reduce my position once it set up the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 15. Triggered me in and it didn't go, so I ended up trimming my position over the 5 minute. So now that I lowered my stop, I found some time to fix the camera issue. And then the FedEx chopped around until it finally trailed me out over the 15 on both accounts. I also did try the Sense short from yesterday, had a couple of breakdowns and sell setups, but wasn't feeling much at all today, so couldn't really capitalize off of that. Then my favorite symbol of the week, the TEL. Originally popped this morning, but it had a rounding top on the 15, so shorted it and scalped it to the downside and to the upside as well. Then I hesitated on this NVAX as a climactic short. It went parabolic on the intraday and had a nice 5 minute entry bar, but the R to R wasn't all that great for the target that I had. So I ended up not pulling the trigger on it, but it did work. I just wish it had a tighter stop. I also tried this GGR as a short off the base on the 15, but couldn't get a single share filled on this one. And that was it. So September is usually a slow month for me since it's sandwiched between earnings season. And I usually don't like doing these week of trading videos on FOMC week because I personally tend to be less aggressive because I feel like the market just gets too choppy for me on Fed announcements and they end up being the less interesting week for me. But I thought, hey, maybe this week would be different and more volatile since we finally got the rate cut everybody was anticipating for. But I guess not. But let me know in the comments what you think about this new layout. Give me some feedback in the comments. Is there anything you would like to see added or taken out? Let me know. But that's going to do it for this one. As always, I appreciate you for being here and I hope to see you on the next one. Peace.
Hey, all work, no pleasure. I ain't here to make friends, big stepper. Hey, Bad guy, Heath Ledger. Ready for whatever, I'll be front and center.